Hey ladies, please go ahead, like this video, subscribe, and join my mailing list so you can have access to the Sugar Lady Academy. This is where you go to receive spiritual downloads and transmissions from my dark feminine brain into your brain so you can build new neural pathways and gain a whole new way of looking at men, at looking at money, and looking at your life so you can live your sweetest life possible. Hey ladies, I want to talk about sex and food and about how we are over sexualizing it and creating it to be something it was never meant to be, and how it affects us, how it affects humans, and how they don't even see it. This is really important for you to understand. Let's talk about sex, for instance, right? When you look at human sex and compare it to how sex was meant to be, how it was originally created to be, and how it was normal and natural for so long until relatively recently. Like all throughout history, sex for the most part was just a normal function. It was about as pleasurable as taking a dump. It's something your body does that like it feels good, and you go and you do it, and then it's done. And you don't sit there and think all day about, oh, when's the next time I get to go take a dump? Oh my God, that last dump I took was so amazing. It felt so good. Oh my God, I'm gonna go online and I'm gonna look at videos of other people taking dumps because I want to fantasize about the next dump I'm gonna take. And oh my God, I gotta go buy some lingerie and get my boobs done and do all this stuff before I take my next dump. Like, no. We have perverted sex. The word perverted actually means to like change something from its original form. So you can pervert sex, you can pervert food, you can pervert anything. You can take it from its normal, natural state and turn it into something perverted, something changed, something that is not normal. And when you take something from its original states and you doctor it up, you change it with food, we actually chemically change it so it reacts differently inside of the body, you know, all of the additives and preservatives and chemicals and sugars and all these things. You're taking something and you're altering it. When you take something from nature and you alter it, it turns into a drug. You can go into nature and you can get a cocaine leaf, right? A cocaine leaf, you can take it, you can chew on it, you can swallow it, you can give it to a baby. It's not going to have the same effect as if you took it and you ground it down to a fine powder and changed its original state. Now you take that and you ingest it, and guess what? You've made a drug. And now you have a whole bunch of people in the population that take this, they ingest it, and now they are addicted. We've done the same thing with sex. We have taken sex from its original natural state, its natural form, where it was made for procreation. It was made to provide like a physical relief, a little bit of temporary pleasure. Sometimes it was pleasurable, sometimes it was not. It wasn't a big deal if it was pleasurable or if it was not pleasurable. It didn't last a very long time. It just took, you know, a couple of minutes, and you just went on with your day. And sex was for, you know, some pleasure, and it was for making babies. That's what it was for. Sex has been so altered now to where sex is a drug now. Sex is not used for its original purpose, and it has perverted our minds. It has twisted our minds, and we have this whole society that is just pounding this into our heads every day. It took something natural that was just meant to be, you know, this once in a while activity that we didn't think about much, that we didn't need couples counseling about, that we didn't need Viagra and, hormonal pills and birth controls and liposuction and boobs and butts and all these fake body parts and, putting silicone bags into our body to be more sexually attractive and, dating apps and lingerie and, all these other things that we've added to sex, all these toys and whips and chains and vibrating this and that and all the stuff we've added to it. It's the same thing we've done with our food. Food used to be natural things that grew out of the ground, that grew in nature, and we took them and we ate them. Sometimes we would slightly change them by cooking them over heat, and that was about it. And then we ate them, and it provided nutrition for our bodies. Now our food is, you take it, you process it 10 different ways, you put all kinds of crap in it, and pesticides and herbicides and sugar and sucralose and all these other toxic, addictive chemicals, and then package it up and put it on a shelf for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then we consume it. And then we wonder why we're fat and we're sick and we're diabetic and blood tests are not right and we end up with cancer and all these kind of things. We're not even consuming real food. We're consuming perverted food. It's not even food anymore. And sex is not even sex anymore. Sex is a freaking circus performance. And all these women are competing against each other on who can do the most perverted circus performance and lure in all these sex addicted men. It's just we're living in the wrong paradigm here, ladies. We're not even in freaking reality. We're not even having real natural sex. We don't even know what that's about. We call that boring sex. And we're oh, well, men don't like boring sex. Men want this sex-like thing that's kind of like sex, that all the other animals in the world that have sex look at us and say, what are they doing? What is that? That's not sex. Yeah, they're putting the penis inside of the hole, and they're also putting the penis in holes that don't even procreate. We're the only creatures that do stuff like that. Penises are not even meant to go in other holes other than the vagina. No other creatures really do that. Why? Because they haven't taken sex and perverted it and turned it into this other thing that is not serving us. All the extra stuff we do with sex has turned it into a drug. It's turned it into this crazy thing that makes us sex addicted, love addicted. It makes us compete with other people. It makes us jealous. It ruins relationships. It's so perverted. It's so unnatural. And just about everything in society supports this paradigm. And everybody thinks it's freaking normal, and everybody is living like this. Well, most people are living like this. And they don't even realize that sex is not even sex anymore. And they don't even realize food is not even food anymore. Most people these days have never actually had sex. They've had a circus-like addictive performance that is not good for human psychology. It's not good for the man. It's not good for the woman. Most people these days have not even had real food. And if they have had real food, they thought it was gross. And if they have had real sex, they thought it was boring. That's how far away from nature we are. This is how messed up most people are. This is how sick most people are. And because everybody is sick, nobody really knows that they're sick, because they look at everybody around them. I'm like, I'm not sick. I'm like everybody else. No, everybody's sick. All these people are psychologically sick. We need to wake up. If you can wake up out of this lie, you can serve yourself so much better. You can become grounded. You can get that inner peace you're looking for. You can remove yourself from this sick world and this sick society, and it'll be like you're sitting on the moon and you're looking down and you can see everybody else living inside of this sickness, and you can pull yourself away from it, and you can live your own life how you want to live it in a healthier way, with a healthier body and a healthier mind, and not take all this stuff so seriously. Because there's a lot of people, and I only know this because I have been there, and I still visit that mental place every so often, and it's so painful. It's painful to be caught up in that lifestyle, in that way of thinking. It's so emotionally and psychologically painful. The first thing to getting out of the pain is to realize that we're sick, is to realize how perverted everything we're doing and consuming actually is, and realize it was never meant to be that way. It was never meant to be that way. We've altered it. Normal, natural things have been altered, and now they are addictive substances that hurt our brains. Thinking of sex from this new age perspective is not natural. It's not good for your brain. It's not good for your psychology. If you're thinking of it from this new age perspective, you're going to be attracting men that are pretty much sex addicts. You don't want to get married to somebody that is a sex addict. You may want to get married to one that is a sex addict and is in recovery, but I'm telling you, it's pretty common. It's pretty much all men in the Western world are sex addicts, but we don't even consider it that because it's just so common for men to look at pornography regularly, for men to sleep with a lot of women. That, men are just, they're just boys being boys. Oh, they got to go out and explore before they get married. Oh, they got to get it out of their system. This is all craziness. And the stuff men are attracted to. Men being attracted to fake body parts, that's part of sex addiction. Their minds are warped, and every time they go on a dating app, or they look at a TV commercial, or they look at their phone, or they look at a magazine, wherever they go, they look at girls walking down the street, all the women are playing in to this perverted sexuality. So it's just being confirmed for them over and over and over and over that this is what sexuality is. That's not real sexuality. This is a perverted form of sex. It is an altered form of sex, and it's not even actually sex anymore. It is an addictive substance. It is a drug now. Anytime you take something from nature and you process it and you change it so much, when you put it into your body, when you put it into your mind, when you put it into your brain, into your eyes, into your mouth, it reacts inside of your body and brain differently. When you take sex and you pervert it, it is now a drug. You're not having sex, you're doing drugs. If a guy is looking at porn and then he goes out to a bar, he meets a girl, he goes on a dating app, he goes on a date, he sleeps with a girl, he's not really having sex with her. Yes, his penis is going inside of her many holes. He's not actually having sex. He's getting high. He's doing drugs. When you pull over to a McDonald's, right, and you go through the drive-through window, you're not going to eat food. That's not freaking food. It's not food. You may be putting it in your mouth and chewing it and swallowing it. You're not eating food right now. You're getting high. You're doing drugs. You pulled over to McDonald's to do drugs. And the way that's going to affect your body, because it's not a natural thing, the way it's going to affect your body and your mind is not going to be pretty in the long term. When a man is having sex, or when you as a woman are having sex under this paradigm, this sick, perverted, twisted way of having sex, when you're engaging in that type of sexual behavior and you're believing that this is just what sex is, you're not actually having sex. You're doing drugs. And when you take something from nature and you turn it into a drug and then you consume it, even if you're looking at it, you're listening to it, you're thinking about it, you're still putting it into you. You're putting it into your brain, you're putting it into your soul. Putting drugs into your brain and into your soul is never going to have a good long-term effect. It's impossible. You can't take something, put toxins into it, and have a good long-term effect. That will never work. You will never, ever, ever beat nature. Nature will always, always win in the end. If you're doing things outside of nature, there will be heavy consequences. There's no way around it. I don't care if the rest of society is doing it. They're all going to have the same consequences, and you can already see the consequences. What are the consequences of people that are getting high on freaking food or food-like substances that aren't even actually food anymore because they've been altered and perverted? What are the consequences? They're overweight, they're sick, they're on medications, they have cancer, they're dying of heart attacks, all kinds of things. Why? That's the consequence of them basically doing drugs all their life. They were eating things, they were consuming things that weren't actually food, they were drugs. And what do we see with people that have been consuming the sex drug? Well, we see the consequences. These are failed marriages. These are people who've been in lots and lots of relationships. We see children with no fathers. We see, men with their wages garnished from many different women because he has to pay all this child support now. We see the consequences constantly of people that have been consuming toxic sex. Sex that's not even sex anymore. Sex that is drugs. They have not been having sex their whole lives. They've been doing drugs, calling it sex. They've been doing drugs. They've been getting high. And now the long-term consequences are what? Broken families. All these adult children now that are traumatized. Everybody has trauma and, history, family history problems. There's all kinds of sexual abuse. Where do you think sexual abuse comes from? It comes from this fake sex-like thing. It comes from that mentality because sex has been taken and perverted and altered from its original form. And now we have all kinds of twisted shit going on in this world. And the consequences are people who are abused sexually. The consequences are broken families, divorces, all kinds of problems, rage and jealousy, and then people who are incarcerated because they've murdered somebody in a jealous rage, people with restraining orders, all this kind of crazy stuff that happens. That all comes from the core root of taking something natural and perverting it. And it has a chain reaction. It has a domino effect. And it just keeps going and going and going and going and creates all these problems in people's lives. And then what happens? They turn to more addictions to soothe the pain of all the problems they're having now from the first addictions. And then people have layers and layers and layers and layers of addictions on top of them, and their lives freaking suck. I just wanted to talk about that and give you my perspective. Ladies, these are core foundational things that you at least need to be thinking about somewhere, at least in your subconscious mind, because this is going to help you on your journey to the sweetest life possible. These are things you need to be aware of, that you at least need to let simmer in your subconscious mind over time. If you don't realize these kind of things when you're trying to invest for your financial future, when you are trying to get into relationships with men, when you're trying to rotational date, you're gonna have some things missing. It's best to understand these things from the very beginning, because the way you will process all future information is gonna be a lot easier. You're going to be able to see the world, to see other people, to see your life in a different, much more clear way. If you are not aware that society is sick and that you very likely are inside of that sickness right now too, it's like trying to tell a drug addict while they're high that they have an addiction and they need to change. They won't always completely believe you. If you're high during the time, it's hard for you to understand that you're high. What normally happens is people who were addicts for a long time, when they do go into recovery and they've been sober for a long time, they look back and they'll tell you stories and they'll say, oh my God, I didn't realize how high I was. I didn't realize how bad I was. It didn't seem that bad while I was in it. But now looking back, I can see it, and I can see it so clearly. I'm just saying it to you to just plant the seed to get you to start thinking and maybe start making some different moves in your life and start perceiving other people a little bit differently, so you can have a clearer understanding of what is going on, and that can hopefully help you get yourself out of this paradigm. You want to go into a different paradigm where life is healthier, life is sweeter. You can have the things you want to have, but you can't do it if you're living inside of this paradigm with all the other sick people. That's just a little bit of information that I wanted to share with you all. I know some of these things are a little bit complicated and maybe sound a little bit weird. This video was meant for certain people who are currently on the cusp of already kind of thinking of these things for themselves, but maybe they haven't been able to find the words for it. But you all know what I mean. Like, when there's knowledge that is meant for you and you hear somebody else say it, you'll be like, oh my God, that's what I've been feeling. I just never heard it expressed. Or, I tried to express it, but I couldn't actually verbalize it, but I could think of it in my own mind. So if this video resonated with you, that's awesome. It means you're already on your way to shifting paradigms, to moving yourself from this reality into a better reality where you can have a better life and you can create the sweet life you want for yourself. And we can all construct our life the way we want it. That's what is so awesome and so amazing, that your life belongs to you. You can construct it to be the perfect life for you. So, as always, I wish everybody a sweet journey, and I hope that I have added value to your lives today. Thank you so much. Talk to you later. Bye for now.